Okie doke. So can everyone hear? Yes? Yes? Good. Okay, we'll strive to maintain a certain level of formality, although this is definitely an in-house family get-together. I always say every time I'm at Will's that this feels like the home congregation. This is where we can let our hair down even when we speak from the pulpit. And I encountered Will a few weeks ago at a buffet, and he said, "I'm glad to see you." And I said, "I'm glad to see you." And he said, "This must mean we both need money." So why don't we plan an event? But we needed a draw, so we thought probably we could lend some respectability to the enterprise by getting a British theoretical biologist to throw in with the plan. So every year now for several years, the annual return of the sheldrakes to Turtle Island has been a high point in the social calendar. And sometimes it happens in the spring and sometimes in the late summer. But it always is an excuse to suspend the ordinary rules of engagement and party down as much as we can with these wonderful people. And Rupert and I have not seen each other for 10 months or so. Flew in from Vancouver this afternoon. I saw he and Jill for the first time this evening. I have yet to see Merlin, who is the latest adumbration of the Sheldrakean morphogenetic concrescence. And I'm sure he lives up to the name. So the way we conceived of this is I just think that what goes on in our living rooms is much more exciting even without the dope smoking than what goes on in the public lecture situation. So the idea was for Rupert and I to get together again, get to catch up again, and have you as part of the extended family participate in this. So on very short notice, I conceived this and called it Forms and Mysteries, Morphogenetic Fields and Psychedelic Experiences, as a kind of effort to split the deck two ways equally, you know. Although in the past, Rupert and I have participated at Esalen. We spent a very interesting afternoon talking about the theory of formative causation and what it might say about the psychedelic experience pharmacologically, psychologically, historically, and so forth. Forms and Mysteries seem to me a fitting title because, of course, form is a mystery that even science is willing to acknowledge. This is the great terra incognito of modern science, is the persistence and genesis of form. What is it? Where does it come from? And what sustains it? And typical of the history of science, the more complex problems have been postponed historically until epistemological and analytical capabilities were sufficient to deal with the problem. This is why, for instance, linguistics was no more than a metaphor until the 20th century. And in a sense, I think probably morphogenesis was in the same situation, because powerful mathematical tools have had to be invented to carry it out of the realm of mere theoretical discussion. Rupert has been, I think, the most radical of all the people who have proposed a revisioning of causality, and by extension the domain of science, what it is able to claim as its purvey. And I think that his position has been at first ignored, and more recently with the publication of his second book excoriated, because this is no small matter. This is actually a question of fundamental epistemic importance to the entire scientific enterprise, because what is being proposed in the theory of the morphogenetic field is a revisioning of causality. The second book, which if you haven't read it, you're certainly missing an intellectual adventure. It's like a chance to read the Principia when the person who wrote it is striding around town giving lectures. It's really a rare intellectual adventure. I haven't known that kind of excitement reading theoretical biology since discovering L.L. White when I was a kid. But what is being proposed is a fundamental revisioning of how events happen in the world, and very fundamental to the performance of science is the notion of experiment. And experiment rests on the relatively unexamined concept of the restoration of initial conditions. Well, the Sheldrakean cosmos would play havoc with the notion of the restoration of initial conditions, because what it is saying is that the universe is a steadily accreting and self-defining set of interlocking habits, and that that slices into this waveform interference pattern of habit are therefore necessarily going to be time dependent. In other words, it looks different at each point in its history. It makes it very hard, therefore, to see how in an atmosphere like that, ordinary science can be prosecuted at all. So the interest that it holds for me then is that it seems to be a very calm, rational, attentive program of intellectual understanding which leads to the same radical conclusions that an emergence in the core experience of archaism, the psychedelic experience, argues for. In other words, that all our intellectual constructs are in fact built on shifting sands, and all knowledge is provisional at this stage in the epistemic enterprise. It doesn't mean that a more epistemically grounded knowing is not possible. It merely means that up to this point, it has not occurred. Science's claim to fulfill this function is now in serious trouble. It actually has been in some areas since the elaboration of quantum physics in the 20s, but Sheldrake is coming at it not from a realm of extremely arcane mathematical modeling, but in the biological realm, with a model which is both simultaneously true to felt experience and confounding to the scientific paradigm as it has been waged since Bacon, essentially. So Rupert is with us tonight. He will tell you, I hope, the state of the art in terms of experiments and the public dialogue that attends these things, because make no mistake about it, the overturning of a scientific paradigm is a political act, and it has to do with reputations and tenure and publication and people who have built their lives defending something that they now see under severe attack. what I believe